Good evening, I'm London Jen and this is Battle Rap World, your weekly news roundup of everything that's happening in the world of battle rap. Now, this week we are not doing our normal weekly roundup of the week's events because there really was only one topic that everyone was talking about this week. Shit, no, not that one.
Ahdi Boom. Ahdi Boom. Boom. Come on, Ahdi Boom. What you doing, Boom?
Ahdi Boom. Ahdi Boom. No. See, you did it. You did it again.
Alright, so Boom.
Now, much has been said about Ahdi Boom and his case, but I think you'll want to stick around because at the end of this episode, you might think a little differently. Back in February this year, when live battles was still a thing, Bigg K dropped a bombshell on the world of battle rap in his battle with Ahdi Boom on the RBE card, The Get Back. Bigg K opted to go first and in his first round called out Ahdi Boom for snitching and came with paperwork in hand, delivering the now infamous line,
"Take one and pass it down."
K accused Boom of snitching on his co-defendants to get a lesser sentence and the rest is history. 15 Minutes of Fame interviewed Ahdi Boom after the battle, but he laughed off Bigg K's claims as fake shit, done for views, but did nothing to clear up the claims made against him. Ahdi then went back and forth on social media trying to defend himself and even put out a covertly filmed clip of his lawyer confirming he didn't take the stand. Unsurprisingly, none of this cleared up his name or made the situation any better. Ahdi's next move was to drop a freestyle, claiming he didn't rap, and made things seemingly worse by calling out a few names of people who had stood by him, including Goods, who was forced to come out and say that things don't look good for Ahdi, and he'd advised him to lay low until he can get the documents to clear his name. Then this last week, Ahdi gave another interview to Uncle Ra of 15 Minutes of Fame, which did nothing to settle the discussion. And the battle rap blogosphere did what it does.
Ahdi seems like he knows he snitched. He knows he snitched, but the story is not being told on why. It could be, yo, this other nigga turned over. He was trying to put it all on us. So I told my side of the story. It is what it is.
The attention span of battle rap is so short. It's so short. You know what I'm saying? A new thing pops up every week. So, or every 2 weeks. If you want that spot where everybody talks about you, everybody throw hate, stuff that you don't like, I guess media and stuff like that talk about your name, stay out the way. Norbs was the topic. And I'm just telling you how battle rap works. Norbs, shout out to Norbs. Norbs was the topic. All you gotta do is wait. Just wait. Just wait until you're ready, until you have what you say you have. You know what I mean? All you gotta do is wait. It gets worse and worse and worse every time you jump in front of a camera.
Shut up your mouth, Gretchen.
Ahdi did himself absolutely no favours with this interview and raised more questions than he answered. We'll lay some of them out here and see if we can answer any of them factually.
So when I went to go get my plea agreement. When I read it, I'm like, I understand it says I ain't say nothing, but it ain't enough.
Your plea agreement said that you didn't say nothing, but you didn't believe that the plea agreement saying that you didn't say nothing wasn't enough.
Now, we're going to jump around a little bit in this episode, so we come back to this point in a moment.
If I were told, for real, if I were told, everything I would have said would have been in his trial. I would have to go on the stand to his trial.
And Boom, you're saying if you really snitched, you would have to take the stand because of Jersey laws? I don't want to give you another Archie Bunker award, Boom, man.
So, did he testify or did his statement stand up in court for him? Well, as we'll see later, Ahdi's co-defendant named in the appeal that Bigg K brought to light didn't go to court anyway, so this is a moot point. He didn't have a trial whether Ahdi made a statement or not.
You're waiting for the coronavirus to be over for the courts to open up to, again, I just want to make sure you can't get that information online.
Hell no.
Okay.
It's impossible.
Right.
It's impossible.
You say all the courts is closed because of corona. I don't know whose intelligence you're insulting, but whatever.
Unsurprisingly, courts in New Jersey, and specifically the court dealing with Ahdi's claim, is closed. Now, it took me some time and a little bit of research to find out exactly where Ahdi's case was heard, and I have names and numbers and screenshots, but I'm not going to put them out. All of the information was public. It just took a bit of time, so feel free to do the digging if you want, but the courthouse I wanted was indeed closed. They have no website or email address. Bizarre, but absolutely true. Only a telephone number and an address. When you call the number, a recorded message explains that the courthouse is closed. It gives you the extension to dial for emergent matters and then gives you the opportunity to leave a message. There are no other options. Emergent matters are explained on the New Jersey court's website, but they're basically emergency filings that you might need to make during lockdown, and they don't include requesting paperwork. It seems very unlikely that Ahdi would be able to get his paperwork from the court until after lockdown had eased at the very least.
You battled him on February 29th.
This I cannot answer to. I have no idea why he didn't get paperwork in the time between the battle and lockdown.
If you're not in my case, it's impossible for you to get my paperwork. It's impossible for that man to get my discovery because he's not in my case. You ain't getting nobody fucking discovery packet, my nigga. It's impossible.
So I guess that's why your paperwork hasn't popped up on the internet, because I'm sure people were searching for it.
I understand certain states have certain guidelines and laws, but to get paperwork, that's not really some top secret thing. In fact, after the 50 Minutes of Fame interview, I had to make sure I wasn't bugging. I had to call a popular battle rapper in New Jersey, hit him on the jack, and said, "Sir, X, Y, and Z, he told me that man is bugging."
So exactly who could access Ahdi's discovery documents? Now, this has been difficult for me to verify, but according to the rules governing the courts of the state of New Jersey, some court records are open for public inspection and copying, and it lists some exceptions to the rule. One of those exceptions is, in criminal and municipal court proceedings, discovery materials provided to the Criminal Division Manager's Office by the prosecutor pursuant to those rules, except for parties and their counsel of record. Now, I believe this means that any discovery in a case filed with the court, because of course the prosecution chooses what evidence to enter into court and what not to, is not available for public access. It's only available for the parties and their lawyers. I could be wrong about this, and I'm very happy to be proven wrong. Something I am certain about, however, is that unless Ahdi was convicted and sentenced in the Superior Court of New Jersey, his records are not available for public inspection online. Again, I don't think it would be easy for Ahdi to get something to prove he didn't give up his co-defendant online via a public court record system.
I call my lawyer all the time. He's like, "Yeah, well, so I can't do nothing for you right now. The office is closed." Right. You know what I'm saying? So
now,
a lawyer doesn't need to be at their office to access documents. Lawyers can access case files and documents from their home without ever even getting up out their bed.
Could he get the documents from his lawyer? Now, this I can't speak on other than to speculate. I don't know who Boom's lawyers are, and so I can't verify any of the details that Boom gives here as to whether they're open and whether or not a client may obtain documents at this time. It is totally plausible to me that his lawyers are operating under full capacity and don't have a full working staff, and so, like the court, are only dealing with emergencies. It's quite possible. I have no idea. And again, this is speculation. I just don't know. Now, before I touch on the facts of the case, we're going to have a look at a clip from WBRC Wave Gang Radio to highlight exactly what's wrong with some of the commentary surrounding this and how the presence of doubt does not and should not lead to the presumption of guilt. Now, WBRC Wave Gang, who are EJ Always, Pretty Money and A Smoke of NY, sat down for what they called a paperwork party, where they would go over Ahdi Boom's plea agreement, apparently given to the Smoke of NY by Boom himself. At this party, EJ Always reads through 4 pages of the document, which is pretty much just legalese, which adds no new information. The three of them make a big deal out of the fact that a page is missing. Boom gave it to them without page 4.
My whole thing is, he told me when I first got it, he told me there was a page missing. I said, what do you mean there's a page missing?
Oh man.
He was like, oh, I didn't get all my paperwork yet.
What does it say on that page?
That's the scary
It said what the page says is him did it, and then him did it. That's what the page say, nigga. Fact. That's a whole fact.
As you can see, they surmise the only reason this could be is because page 4 is where the details of the snitching is hidden, and once the world sees that page 4, then the truth will be revealed. Now, after watching this, I did what Wave Gang should have done before throwing their little paperwork party. I went and got a copy of the standard plea agreement form used in New Jersey courts to see what information might be contained in page 4 of Ahdi's plea agreement, because it is of course a standard form and anyone can get a blank copy. As you can see, sections 14 through 20 are a list of yes or no answer questions, basically confirming that the person signing understands their rights. You will note that there is no "did you snitch on your Codies" question. Coming back to the point raised earlier, why didn't Boom put out his plea agreement? Well, because it doesn't confirm or deny whether or not he cooperated with the authorities. It just muddies the waters. The Wave Gang, however, are pretty certain that page 4 will be the nail in Boom's coffin, and that's the only reason Ahdi gave them the plea agreement without it. As we can see, this is clearly not the case, but what has happened here, as I said already, is that the presence of doubt, the missing page, led straight to the presumption of guilt. The only reason that page could be left out is because it makes him look guilty. Yes, it's possible, but it's not certain, and as we can see, it was bullshit in the end, something which the gang acknowledged in the comments of that video when they eventually got the 4th page. Now, I'm not going to touch on that document specifically because I don't know where it's come from. It's said to have come from Boom, but I can't verify that, so therefore I'd be speculating on a document that may or may not be real, doesn't really say anything either way to confirm or deny the allegations, and this is much deeper than battle rap, so I'm going to steer clear of it. I only included those clips and that information in that section because if I didn't mention the plea agreement that was doing the rounds, then there would be questions. And I also wanted to use it to highlight the dangers of using the absence of information to paint your own narrative. So I'm going to use the information that we do have and investigate it, starting with the only verifiable document that we have at our disposal, the Bigg K document. Before we move on to the document, we're going to take a look at just a few more clips from that last 15 minutes of fame interview, because Ahdi lays out there exactly what he says he said and didn't say to investigators.
I said, I don't know. All right, well, who did this? If you ain't do it, he ain't do it. Right, I don't know. I ain't shoot no gun. I don't know, but I don't got no gun. I don't shoot no gun. I ain't shoot it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never said, oh man, he shot the gun. Hell no, my nigga. I would never do it. That's stupid. What I did was like, bitch, I ain't do nothing. I was in that room. Yo, I ain't do that, bro. I ain't do that. All right, well, who was the mastermind of this? I don't know. It wasn't me, bro. I don't know. I did say a Jamaican accent. Right. It wasn't me. You feel me?
Now stick with me, because although Bigg K and much of battle rap media focused only on a few sentences, we're going to examine the whole 7-page document properly and really get it to reveal all of its secrets. So make sure you're sitting comfortably. Maybe pause here and get a drink or roll something up if that's your thing. Basically, the document is an appeal from one of Boom's co-defendants, Stanley Williams, appealing the length of his sentence. Now, I've turned it into a PDF document here because it's easier for me to sort of play around with, but it's the exact same document that's available on the Justia US Law website, the document that Bigg K produced in the battle. Now, Stanley Williams had basically pleaded guilty to robbery, possession of a weapon, and conspiracy to commit robbery, and was given a 13-year sentence for the robbery and 5 years for each of the other 2 charges to run concurrently, so he'd do a total of 13. Then we get into some boring legal case law stuff that has nothing to do with this or Ahdi's case. It's just a legal framework for the judges to make their decision. This bit here is very important. This tells us where the judges got the information that they're basing their decision on, and we can see it's from only 3 sources. The first is the state's official version of the offence, basically what the prosecution say went down. The second and the third are allocution statements from 2 people. The defendant, so the guy who's appealing, Stanley Williams, and only one of his co-defendants, either Kent or Green, Ahdi Boom. It doesn't say which one. An allocution statement is essentially the statement that you make to the court after pleading guilty to say, I'm very sorry, I'm not a bad person, please give me a light sentence. This paragraph basically tells us that these were the documents that the appeal court had in front of them to make their decision. Getting into what actually took place, it states that Ahdi and his 3 co-defendants, the guy making the appeal, Stanley Williams, Brian Kent, and Edwin Sanchez, planned a robbery which Ahdi and Williams carried out, with Kent waiting in the car outside. Sanchez wasn't present for the actual robbery, but the document states that both Kent and Green called him the mastermind. Now stick a pin here because we're going to come back to this. Basically, the document is an appeal from one of Boom's co-defendants, Stanley Williams, appealing the length of his sentence. Now, I've turned it into a PDF document here because it's easier for me to sort of play around with, but it's the exact same document that's available on the Justia US Law website, the document that Bigg K produced in the battle. The document then goes on to give details of the robbery, including that the victim claimed one of the men used a Jamaican accent. Now, I'm sure we all know why that's relevant. Now, all 4 men are picked up and we're given details of what happens to each of them. Now, we need to pay very close attention here to the wording. Kent enters into a cooperation agreement for this and another crime and pleads guilty and gets 5 years. Green enters into a plea agreement as well and also gets 5 years. Sanchez, we don't know whether he went to trial or not, but he got 17 years. So far, so simple. Green makes the same agreement as Kent and gets the same time, right? Well, no, I'm not so sure. But we need another pin to come back to this one at the end because there's more information here to bring to light. Now, the next section is the one used by Bigg K in the battle and most discussed by the media. Kent and Green both provided statements to investigators. Green said that he used the Jamaican accent during the robbery to disguise his identity. He also said the defendant fired a gun in the house. Kent said the defendant provided the gun for the robbery. So, Kent and Green provided statements to investigators. So he's a snitch, right? Well, again, can we be sure based off of this sentence alone? We're given no details of what sort of statement is being referred to here or who the investigators are and what they're investigating. It's certainly unlikely to be investigators hired by Stanley Williams' appeal lawyers, as neither of those statements would be helpful to Williams' case. Also, as we get onto in a second, Ahdi admitted taking part in the robbery. Presumably he did so in a statement. You can make a statement without accusing somebody else. So let's take Boom at his word here for a second. Now stay with me. We know Ahdi pleaded guilty, therefore admitting his part in the robbery. He's also admitted in his 15 Minutes of Fame interview that he used the Jamaican accent and has said several times, including in his freestyle, that he didn't finger anyone for having a gun, but said that he did not fire the gun. He said he didn't know who did. It wasn't him. Now, if we're the investigators, we could make the following inference. or basically filling the blanks from that statement. 2 men went in. One of them fired a gun. Ahdi says he didn't fire the gun, so the other man must have fired the gun. Is this snitching by omission? Well, if it is, then any guilty plea where you aren't the only defendant is also snitching. Now, that's an argument you hear being made and a topic for another day, but consider that Stanley Williams, the guy whose appeal document we're looking at, also pleaded guilty and said that he was the one who fired the gun, despite the fact that the witness clearly says it was the guy with the Jamaican accent we all know as Boom. He could have also said that he did not have the gun, just like Boom did. It sounds like he didn't have the best lawyer, which is why he's appealing, to be fair. But back to Ahdi. If we take Ahdi at his word that he never said in any statement that Williams or anyone else had a gun, then could Williams' appeal lawyers have made the same inference here? Remember, they're trying to make the best case that their client's original lawyer messed up badly and got him a longer sentence. I'm venturing into speculation here just for a moment, but is it feasible that Ahdi's statement of "I did not fire the gun" was turned into "the only reason my client pled guilty to the gun charge was because he had a really shitty, lazy lawyer who told him to cop to it because Ahdi said he did it"? And so their appeal, which we don't have access to, says Ahdi says Williams fired the gun, rather than the correct Ahdi says he didn't fire the gun, simply because it makes a stronger case for their client. Yes, I'm speculating here like everyone else, but we need another pin because we come back to this issue at the end of the document and all need for speculation is removed. Also, one more thing to note here is that the appeal court are using 3 documents to make the decision: the state's version of events, Stanley Williams' allocution, and that of either Kent or Green, but not both. So this paragraph cannot be referring to statements made for this appeal in particular, which is something that I've seen said, because we're told that allocution statements are used from one of those 2, not both. So it cannot be statements that they made specifically for that appeal. But also because an allocution statement just wouldn't include that sort of information. But we'll come back to this with some facts later. This section states that Williams admitted to having the gun at his plea hearing, and also, importantly, that his lawyer didn't argue for a lesser sentence. One of the questions raised in all of this is, why did he get so much more time than Boom? Well, one of the reasons is here in black and white. His lawyers didn't ask for any less time. Anyway, more pins, because the judges go on to detail precisely why Stanley Williams got more time, and it has nothing to do with Boom telling. And a side note here, one of the accusations levelled against Boom is that he made a statement claiming Williams had the gun, and that this statement was used against Williams at his trial and is why he got so much more time than Boom. Only someone who hasn't read the document could make that claim, because as we can clearly see here, Williams didn't go to trial. He pled guilty. Now we move on to the judge's decision and why they made it. Williams is basically saying that his lawyer didn't pay attention to the witness statement, alleging that the man who had the gun was the one with the Jamaican accent, which is accepted to be Boom, and that he should have used that to either get the charges dismissed, a lesser sentence, or get a better plea agreement. The judges lay out the tests in law they have to follow and show why this case doesn't meet that test and give reasons why they're denying the appeal. Here they say that Green and Kent had enough to establish probable cause for the weapons charge. What's interesting here is the word choice. Green makes an assertion whilst Kent makes a statement. We don't know where or what document these references come from, but carrying on from our speculation, this could just be how Williams' appeal lawyers worded it in his appeal. Well, no more pins because the speculation is over. The judges now go on to cover the differences in sentencing between the co-defendants and state uniformity in sentencing is a major objective of the criminal justice system, but not all divergent sentences are unfair or unjust. The question, therefore, is whether the disparity is justifiable or unjustifiable. We consider whether the individuals receiving the disparate sentences were similarly situated or not. So they received different sentences, but the facts are that William received 13 years because he was 39 at the time of the offence, had a more extensive criminal record, and had been arrested more than 20 times as an adult. Now, moving on to Kent, it states very plainly the reason for the reduction in his sentence in just a few words. Kent had cooperated with law enforcement. In dealing with Ahdi, the facts that mean he was not similarly situated to Williams and so got less time are that he was 20 years old at the time of the offence and had been in significantly less problems with the law than Williams. What it does not say is that Boom cooperated with law enforcement, as it says for Kent. So this was not a factor that got him a reduced sentence. They're clear on this. David Green, Ahdi Boom, didn't cooperate with law enforcement to get a lesser sentence. You may want to speculate here and ask, if one of them snitched, why did they get the same 5-year sentence? Why didn't Ahdi get more time than Kent if he didn't cooperate and Kent did? Now, remember, Kent had the robbery charges, but he also had charges from another offence. If we go back to one of our dropped pins, we can see that tied into Kent's plea agreement were charges from an unrelated crime. He was charged with the burglary alongside Ahdi, but he also received sentencing for the other charges from a crime Ahdi was not part of. Whilst we're back here, we can look at that word choice again in light of what we've just looked at. Kent cooperated. Ahdi pleaded, as backed up by the judge's determination that we've just looked at. Kent made a cooperation agreement. Lastly, and to tie things up, we have to come back to our first pin, and I find it quite hard to explain this. The judges say that both Ahdi and Kent called Sanchez the plan's, quote, mastermind, unquote. Are they saying that somewhere throughout the proceedings, both Kent and Boom used that exact word to describe Sanchez? It seems odd, but possible. There's the least information on Sanchez in this appeal, and everything is pretty much speculation other than the fact that he received a 17-year sentence, and nowhere in the documents does it say whether he pled guilty or went to trial, so I can't say much more about that. But what is clear is that there's no cooperation between Boom and the authorities cited here, where there is for his co-defendant Kent. That much is clear. Now, if you take the view that anyone who has co-defendants and pleads guilty is therefore telling on their co-defendants, then I've done nothing to convince you of anything. But then you didn't need Bigg K's document in the first place. I didn't need to take you through that. You didn't need to see it. You weren't surprised when Bigg K brought it out at the battle because in your mind, he was already a snitch, because he pled guilty, and there's nothing I could have said to change your mind about that. But if you think that the document is proof positive that Ahdi cooperated with investigators, then I don't think that's that certain, and I think I've done a good job of explaining just why. Now, that's it for this special edition of Battle Rap World this week. We will return next week with all our normal programming, the latest battles, new music, freestyles, quarantine content, all that good stuff. And thank you for watching this extra long special episode. Thank you for watching the last one, for liking and subscribing. If you haven't liked already and you're still here, you must like it, so please give me a like. I would really appreciate that. Really appreciate it. And maybe think about sharing it, recommending it to your friends, putting it on your timeline. This is Battle Rap World, and we will be back next week.